For this video, we need to throw ourselves right in the middle of the 1930s in Europe. It's a pretty spicy time. The Nazis are running all over the place and the world is on the brink of war. But during this time period, a lot of smart people were coming up with creative ways to kill more people, and they were trying to do so with this little thing called the atom. What if I told you it was just one individual, a savvy Belgian businessman, who stopped the Nazis from gaining the atomic bomb? But before we talk about him, we need to talk about the sponsor of today's episode. Today's episode is brought to you by Aura, and it's never been a more important time to talk about Aura than today, because 2.9 billion records were just stolen from hackers who hacked national public data. And you might be saying, hey, what is national public data? Because I know I was asking the exact same question, but that's the service that private investigators, employers, and staffing agencies use to do background checks. So just envision how much information they actually have of yours. Social security numbers, addresses, phone numbers, date of birth, a whole host of things that you don't want in the hands of hackers. And guess what? It's out there. And best of all, the hackers have said, hey, we're gonna give away this information absolutely free online. But rest assured, I use Aura. Anytime my information pops up on the dark web, I get an alert, so action can immediately be taken. Worst case scenario, Aura offers up to $5 million in identity theft protection, which is just another peace of mind. They have a whole host of other tools as well. But right now, you should take action. Use the link down below and get 14 days absolutely free with Aura. That's enough time for Aura to go out there and start scanning the dark web, see what information's out there, to scan data brokers, see what information they have on you, so you can start taking action right away. If you haven't been taking online privacy seriously to this point, this should be your wake-up call. You can go to aura.com/Afterburn, or again, click the link down below and start using your 14-day free trial right now, protecting you and your family. I'm sure most of you have heard about the Manhattan Project, but in case you haven't, that was the US's effort to create the atomic bomb. Well, the Nazis didn't want to be left out either, and they were aggressively seeking the ability to build their own atomic weapon. Thank God that didn't happen. Obviously, the Germans had a lot of smart scientists. Turns out they worked for the US after the end of World War II. But really what stopped the Germans from getting the atomic bomb was one savvy Belgian businessman. Meet Edgar Sengier, the man who literally stopped the Nazis from getting the atomic bomb. And how did he do it? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. In the 1920s, he went to go work in the Congo for a Belgian mining company. Now, we're not really going to dive into the right or wrong here, but there might be a little bit of plundering that went on from the Belgians and a few other European countries for Africa at the time. But again, neither here nor there. Mining might be a boring job, but it definitely was going to get a lot more spicy for Edgar, because his mine was mining some of the most valuable ore in the world, uranium. It's like winning the lottery, but the lottery ticket can blow up half a city and like end the world. So yeah, but nonetheless, his mine had a lot of uranium. And guess who wanted it? The Nazis. So enter the Shokowabe mine, a mine so difficult to pronounce that I had to Google it, and it's rated 4 out of 5 on a difficulty scale for pronunciation. This place might sound like it's some tropical destination, but it is ground zero for the nuclear age, because what comes out of this mine is absolutely essential for the atomic age and for nuclear weapons. Located in the Congo, this mine was producing uranium that was 65% pure. And to put that in perspective, that's like finding gold nuggets the size of your fist just laying around the yard, because most other mines around the world only produce uranium that has 1 or 2% purity. Edward knew this uranium was special, but even he couldn't predict just how important it would be. But he had an inkling, because obviously at this time period, people were talking about atoms and blowing stuff up with atoms potentially, and how they'd figured this stuff out. But just imagine living in the Congo, running a mine, when the Nazis keep coming knocking, trying to buy uranium, having the wherewithal to know, like, something's up here, and these guys probably aren't that good. I don't want to sell them my uranium. So his gut feeling that things weren't going great in Europe and the Nazis weren't going to be up to any good with this uranium might ultimately have saved the world, really, when you think about it. So the Nazis showed up time and time again, and while they weren't holding a sign saying, hey, we're building a bomb, again, Edgar's instincts told him these guys are up to no good. The German government tried to buy uranium multiple times from him, and of course they didn't spill the beans of what they were up to. Literally, the Germans were backing their trucks up, just saying, hey, load it up here and we'll just give you all this cash and enjoy. It's literally like having someone back up to your mine, load up all this dynamite, and them telling you, don't worry about it, it's just for fireworks. But he wasn't buying any of it. This decision might have been the most important no thanks in history. So what did Senger do? In 1939, while everyone else was busy worrying about the war in Europe, he quietly shipped 1,200 tons of uranium ore to the United States. And he shipped it to Staten Island, New York, where he put it in a warehouse and had it stored. Yep, you heard it right. He just shipped it across the Atlantic just in case, to keep it nice and safe over in America. And just imagine shipping a package to your future self, but instead of a photo or a letter, it's thousands of tons of radioactive material. Basically like the world's most dangerous time traveler. Uranium wasn't quite the hot commodity that everyone wanted at the time period, except for maybe a couple niche scientific experiments. But Edward's gut feeling would turn out to be right, because in 1942, the United States government came a-knocking. Desperate for uranium to fuel the Manhattan Project, again the top secret atomic bomb project, and handed the keys to the warehouse right over the United States government. Thus, we enter into the Manhattan Project, the United States government's race for the atomic bomb. The project needed uranium, and it needed a lot of uranium. By a lot of uranium, I mean they needed a lot of uranium-235, which only about 1% of natural uranium consists of uranium-235. About 1 pound of uranium-235 has enough boom to equate to 15 tons of TNT. Thanks to his wherewithal and his forethinking, the United States government didn't have to go scour the globe to try and find this uranium. It was just all sitting in a warehouse that had been neatly stored and waiting for the US government to come a-knocking for them to use. It's like the birthday gift that no one knew they needed. It's like showing up to the potluck empty-handed and your friend says, "Hey, don't worry, I brought extra." Except for an extra potato salad, it's the key ingredient for world domination. Uranium was crucial into the production of the first atomic bombs. That was the thing that went big boom. After the war, U.S. government recognized Edward for his contribution. He was the first non-American to receive the Medal of Merit, one of the highest awards for a civilian in the U.S. It was well-deserved because he literally handed the materials needed to build the bomb to the U.S. and made sure it didn't fall into the hands of the Nazis. Not bad for a guy who's just managing a mine down in Africa. Their story is really one of foresight and how important just one person can be when it comes to turning the tides of history. He might not be as well known as scientists from the Manhattan Project. His name should be known because he was critical for shaping the history of the 20th century. And then he just wasn't a mining executive. He was someone who understood and acted upon his instincts, which the consequences have echoed throughout history. All this because he decided to ship a few thousand tons of uranium to the United States and not accept a truckload of money from the Nazis.